Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Psycho here, and today I'm very excited to bring you guys my new tutorial series where we're going to be learning a little bit about C#. So I'm going to be teaching you guys the basics of C#, and I've actually gotten some suggestions from you guys. Obviously, this is a suggestion by you guys too, but I've also gotten some further suggestions that I could actually develop this more and make the series so that we actually move into the advanced parts about C# 2 later in the series. But that is if the series do well. So if you enjoy these and if you found them helpful after each episode, etc., or if you have any feedback, let me know and leave a like. That really helps a lot. And obviously you can share these videos with your friends and family members that are going to be using Unity or C# in just general, because we are going to be learning the theoretical part of C# and obviously move a little bit into the Unity part too. So anyway, in this episode, however, we're going to be looking at the functions and we're going to be looking at classes, because I thought these were the two easiest and most core parts of, or most important parts in that matter, of using C# and obviously coding in C#. So we're going to be looking at these two parts, and in next episode I think I'm going to be teaching about some variables and different types of variables that are available in Unity, and obviously talk a little bit about some of the API changes that are dependent in Unity rather than like compared to Unreal Engine, etc. So we're going to be talking about how C# and the language itself changes as soon as you change the engine and using a different compiler. But in this video, we're going to be looking at the most simple parts, and to just let you guys know already now, we're using Unity 5.4 or 5.3 or something like that. It's not very important to check the versions. As soon as it's over version 5, you're okay, and because that's pretty much when all the API changes were live, I think. So we're going to be using Unity. And for our compiler, we're going to be using MonoDevelop that follows up with Unity, so it's free, and it's as soon as you download Unity, you should already have MonoDevelop, so you don't really have to worry about that. So creating our own script is very, very easy, and that's what we're going to be starting up with. So you just go to your project tab here, and this layout is probably going to be different for you, but this is just the layout that I recommend everyone to use because I really liked it. And I actually built this myself because I feel like it's very nice to have a scene window here, up here in the left corner, and then have the game window in here like widescreen. So it's really, really nice. I really like this, and I feel like this is perfect. I'm a little biased because it's mine, but you know, I would suggest you to use this if you want to. So you can pause the video here, kind of copy this layout, and then apply it. But that's sidetracking, so without any further ado, we're going to be getting into this. So we're going to be creating our own script by going to the project tab, and we're going to right click into the assets window, and then we're going to choose create. Then we're going to create a new C# script, and boom, you already have your C# script created. Good job. I'm proud of you. So now we're going to be naming the script, and you can name the script whatever you want to. Note that this is going to be the same name that is going to be used on your class. We're going to be talking about that in just a bit, but so basically you just have to know that you need to name your script, and it can be anything at all except for using spaces in between characters. So you can name it whatever you want to, but I'm going to name this for my script to make it simple. And now that we have it created, we need to apply it to the scene so that we actually see all the differences that are obviously coded inside of the script. So we're going to start off by dragging this onto our main camera. You can drag this actually into any other game object too, but basically because of the fact that main camera is the main camera of our scene, I'm going to be dragging and dropping that onto this. And you can also click on main camera and then click on add component and then search for my script or whatever the name is, and then click on it too. But now that I've added it again, you can see that it's duplicated, so I'm just going to delete this. So now that we have the script added to the main camera, it's already ready to it's all ready and set to be run inside of Unity, but now we have to code it. So we're going to double click onto my script, obviously, to open it up, and you can see that it's opening up in MonoDevelop. And here we are, guys, our very own first script ever. So now something that I do is always move a bracket down, so the opening curly brackets are always below the voids and functions and the classes, etc. That's not very important, and it's not necessary at all. However you feel like, you can do so, but I just feel like this is very nice because it's create a little bit creates a very nice layout inside of the code. So I just feel like doing it. Now, a very, very important thing that every single professional coder and every single Unity user does is deleting the first two functions that are following up with creation of a script. So you just delete these two parts and boom, you're ready to go. You don't really have to do that, but and in fact, which is funny, you're gonna be using these two scripts, so you don't really have to do it. That's the proof, but you know, I just want to do it. So now you can see that we have a public class myScript, and that's what I was talking about, naming your script. When we were naming our script actually. So you can see that my script name is myScript, and you can see that the public class is also called for myScript. Now, a very important note, guys, if you want to rename this class for something else, you have to change the script name from Unity to. So you go back to Unity, click here on the name when it's blue, and then you type in the new name, but it has to be the same exact name. And if you want to change it only for the script name, you also have to come back here to the script and change it from the public class name. So you always have to have them two same, basically. That's pretty much the easiest way of describing that. So we're going to be moving on to the functions part, and we are going to create our own very function, which is going to be called for void start. Now, this is a built-in void slash function for Unity, and by the way, void pretty much means the same thing as function in coding. So whenever if you type in function inside of C#, it's not going to work because that's not a part of C#. But if you type in void in JavaScript in Unity, it's not going to work because that's not a part of JavaScript. So in JavaScript you write function, and in C# you write void, but they are still the same thing. So you always type in function start and you always type in void start. They are basically the same. It's just a matter of difference between the languages. But anyway, so void start is a function that is built into Unity, just like I said, and it's the most important part about this function and why it's being used so often is the fact that it's being run only once. And that is obviously when the game starts, and that's the name of the function. So as soon as the game starts and you have a code in here, it's going to be executed right away, but it's going to be done only once. So if we say, actually before we move on to this, I want to comment the code so that we can actually remember what every single void that we create does. So we're going to comment, and by to add a comment, you just click add two slashes, and then you can write anything and it's not going to throw an error. So we're going to type this function will only run once, then inside of parentheses when the game starts. There we go. So now we can save that by holding down Control and clicking S. Now I'm going to move to another function that was also inside of the script when we created it first, the part that we deleted basically. This is going to be called for void update. Now we're going to, once again, parentheses and then curly brackets. And the difference between void update and void start is that they are both built into Unity. That's not a difference, that's a common part. But the difference is that void update is going to be run every single frame inside of the game, whilst void start is going to be run once and only when the start hits in the game. So as soon as you hit start button, it's going to be run, but it's not going to be run anymore. And void start or void update, sorry, it's going to be run every single frame your game has inside of it. So to demonstrate this further, I'm actually going to do something that I was going to do previously. So I'm going to go back to void start, and inside of the curly brackets where we can write the code that is going to be executed, I'm going to simply type in print parentheses quote mark game started. There we go, and a semicolon. So you can see that we type in print, which is going to print something in the console log, which we're going to be looking at in just a bit. And inside of the parentheses, you have a quote mark that is going to basically print whatever is inside of the quote marks. So then you obviously have to close it with another quote mark and then close it with a closing bracket. And then you have a semicolon to note that you're actually ending the statement there. So now we're going to move on to void update, and we're going to write the same thing practically first, print, and then opening parentheses and then quote mark, and then this time we're going to say game running. So the difference between these are the fact that print game started is going to print only once and as soon as the game starts, whilst print game running is going to print every single frame. Note that not every single second, every single frame. So we're going to demonstrate this by going back to Unity. Make sure to save your script, hold down Control, click S, and just check to make sure that we already have our main script that we just created inside of our main camera so that it runs inside of the screen. And speaking of which, the console is right here. So if you click on console tab, you're going to be able to see the console. And I would suggest you to have it on collapse, because this is going to collapse every single log that is the same as the previous one. Now, to further once again demonstrate this, I'm going to show you guys an example. So you can see that game started is being ran only once. So it's been printed only once. And that is because as soon as the game started, it ran and then it executed and it was done. It's not being called anymore. And you can see that game running, however, is printing still. And it's on 1000 plus already. And we have only been speaking for like less than a minute. So just for a few seconds, we already reached, inside just a few seconds, we already reached 1700 prints for game running. So, which is insane, obviously, because that's the point of it. It's running every single frame in your game. Now, I was talking a little bit about collapse button here. If you uncheck collapse, you're going to see that it's going to print this as a new log every single time. Now, if you click on collapse once again, you're going to see that it check marks, and obviously it's going to be collapsed so that it prints only once, but you can see the amount of prints inside of this number that is being generated here. So this is very useful to you. This collapse button is very useful when you obviously don't want to take up way too much space inside of your console and you don't want your logs to get into your head. So you just click on collapse and boom, they collapse themselves. So we can stop playing. You can see that it already saves the log. You can manually clear it if you want to by clicking here. Or you can just check in clear on play and it's going to clear automatically as soon as you start a new game. Now that we have looked into the main two functions that are inside of Unity, we can go back to MonoDevelop to further develop this script a little bit more. So I'm gonna see if we can create our own function now. So I just kind of have to come up with a unique name for our function that we're going to be creating, but I think it's not very important to create a very nice name. But first of all, I feel like we can add a new comment here. Oh, and we also forgot to add a comment here on void update. Oops, I just created a summary. Summary is pretty much the same as a comment, but it's obviously a summary if you want to have it a longer text rather than just a simple line of comment. So anyway, if you don't want to comment, it's fine, but I'm just doing it so that I ensure that you guys remember what these do. So I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see a little bit better. So anyway, I'm gonna say this function will run every single frame until it crashes. As soon as the game starts, obviously. So none of these functions will be running inside of the editor mode, aka when you're not running the game. If you want to have that kind of script, obviously make like an asset or something, you have to make a editor script. And I had a tutorial for a while ago. I made a tutorial a while back, but I don't think that I have it on my channel yet. So yeah, if you would like to see any tutorial like how to make an asset or how to make a editor extension, etc., I could make one, but that is only if I get a lot of support for that. So anyway, now we're gonna move down to the comment that we just created below void update, and we're gonna say this is our custom function. Now we're gonna have a few statements for this function so that we call it from, first of all, from void start and just make sure that it runs as soon as the game starts, and then we're going to have it inside of void update so that it runs every single frame. So we can call this for public void my function, and then brackets again. So you can see that I called for public void and not just void because I want to be able to call it from another void. So if you just call it for a regular void without public, or even call it for private, you're not going to be able to call it from any other any other void, and also you're not going to be able to call it from any other class, basically. So you're not going to be able to access the void from any other class, which is mainly the part of that. And so we can just type in public to make sure that it's accessible from any other script. And I'm actually going to delete the print lines that we have here inside of void start and void update. And now what we're going to do is inside of public void my function, I'm going to say print. What should we print? Psycho's Twitter, twitter.com/psychosam. Sellout. Sorry, I just have to. Follow me if you haven't already. I'm sorry, I just really had to. So anyway, now we're going to make sure that this function runs only when we start the game, because we wanted to do that. So we're gonna go to void start, and we're gonna type in my function, parentheses, opening parentheses, closing parentheses, semicolon. There you go. You already have your custom function set up, and you even have a custom print set up. That is insane. So now we can go back to Unity and we can play, and you're gonna see that it's gonna print my Twitter. There we go. All right, so you can see that it only prints once, obviously, because that is what we wanted. And if you want to make sure that it prints every single frame, or maybe even at start and every single frame too, you can just add it here too, and you can even copy this and click there. There we go. So you're just done like that. So basically, theoretically, what we're doing here is that when you type a public void my function, or whatever name your function has, let's say that it's called for my function, and to call it from another void or from another script, you have to write my function, and then, or basically the function name. So our function's name is basically my function, so I'm just calling it for that. But I just type in my function and then opening parentheses and closing parentheses, and then I semicolon. And now the most important part here is that if I don't have the parentheses, it's gonna throw an error. So you can go back to Unity, and you can see that we already have an error, and it's a critical error. It's not gonna let you play the game before you fix it. All compiler errors have to be fixed. So you have to go back here and always make sure that you have a couple of parentheses right after the function. And we created it to be public, and now we can reach it by using print. Now we're gonna move on to classes once again, but we're gonna make it a little bit more advanced. So we're gonna go back to Unity, and I'm gonna create another script, and I would want you guys to do that too. So it's gonna be another C# script, and we're gonna call this for my script 2 or something. It's not very important what you call it for. So we're gonna open the script 2, go back to MonoDevelop, and once again delete these two parts because you're a professional coder now, obviously, guys, come on. So now we are going to create an instance to the other class. Now this may sound a bit scary, but it's not. So what we're gonna do is we're going to say public my script. So the important part here is that we created public to be public, because this is a variable that is going to be obviously public, so that we can see it inside of the inspector. And to actually show this a bit further, also I'm going to add the MyScript2 to main camera too, so that we have it here. And now you can see that we have a new field inside of the inspector that is called for script. So this is going to be called for, this is obviously empty right now. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to drag and drop this MyScript from there into this field. You can also drag it in from the project tab, but it's not very important which one you do. So the most important part here is that we make it public. And if we don't make it public, it is not going to be visible inside of our inspector menu. You can see that. And I actually, going to be honest with you guys, I thought that I would not make any variable tutorial, but I feel like it's a little bit useful to get into variables a bit now, because obviously when you're talking about classes, it's very useful to talk about variables too, since you sort of have to call a class to use it from another class. So we're just creating these very simple public variables right now, or actually one, and we're going to be moving on to variables in the next episode, but we're not going to make anything very advanced with variables today, so just don't worry about that. So I'm also typing my script because that is the script name. So when you're calling for another script and you know the name of that script, which you probably do, you want to say its name as the variable type. So instead of having an integer, instead of having a game object and everything that we're going to be going through in the next video, you just want to have the name of the script, and it's going to pop up as soon as you start typing it, unless you have disabled that functionality inside of monodevelop. So and then after that, you obviously just name whatever you want for the variable to be named. So I'm naming it for script, but I can also say my script, and you can go back to Unity, and you're gonna see that now the script field that was available before, it's now called for my script instead of just script, because obviously that is the name of the variable. I'm gonna keep it as my script because that's a little bit more less confusing. I was gonna say more confusing, but basically what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna achieve the other script from my script 2. So what we're gonna do here is basically, theoretically, we're just going to access this function that we just created, which is public void my function, inside of my script. And we're not going to create it inside of my script 2 because we already had that function and it's public, so we can just achieve it from, or actually access it from another script. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So now I'm just going to say void start, and we're only going to print this once because we wanted to be able to. Actually, you know what? We're gonna do, yeah, whatever. We can go with void start. It's not very important. It's practically the same as going with void update. It's just going to print it more, but it's not very needed. So what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna say, hold up now. So we're gonna say my script with small m, and then we're gonna say dot. What was the function called? Was it my function? Yes, it was. And now we're gonna say parentheses and then a semicolon, and there you go. You already are calling your custom script or custom function that you created inside of another script from a different script. So you're calling the function from my script, which is a variable here, and that variable is already set to this type of component that we have, which is called from my script. So you just call it for whatever name you want, and you use that name to basically refer to that script, and then you just say that you're going to be using or calling, technically calling, the function that is called for my function inside of that script. And when you go back to the script, you can see that we already have the function here. If you don't have the function here, or if you don't have set up the script properly, it's gonna throw out an error. So it's gonna let you know that you don't really, it can't find any function called from my function. Maybe you spelled it wrong, or maybe you have a wrong code that you basically set up from the inspector, or maybe you even let the game do it for itself. So this is practically very simple, but describing it with words is a little bit more difficult. But it's not intimidating. It's pretty much the same thing as calling my function from void start here, but the only difference is that we add a name before my function, so that we say variable name dot and then the my function. Now I'm gonna delete this line inside of my script, so that because we already are calling this function from another script that we just created. So to test this further, we can go back to Unity, and we can go to console, and we can just clear this because this is old, and now we can play. And obviously I made it private and then I made it public again, so it just resets itself. So what you have to do, you just have to drag the my script in here once again. Sorry about that. Now you play and it should work. There we go. It tweets out it tells my Twitter name once again. I'm very, very obsessed with Twitter right now. So anyway, you can see that this is working properly, and it's being called from the other script, and which is very nice. And you can see the script name here. Actually, there we go. My script on my function. You can see the variable name and the function that is being called at asset/myscript.cs, which is the script that is being called. And then we have, which is the function that is being called, which is located inside of assets/myscript2, and you can see that by going to the assets folder you can see the 2 scripts that we have here. So this is not very important, but it's just very nice to make sure that everything is properly set up, etc. Once again, it's not very important, but it's just to make sure that everything is okay. So anyway, this is pretty much it. I think this is something that should have taught you guys about at least the basics of classes and the basics of functions, and I hope that I was able to teach you guys something, and if I did, I would be really happy. And if I did, actually, I wanted you guys to like the video, show some support, and subscribe to stay up to date for new videos coming soon. Let me know by commenting down below if you just want to say hi, or if you just want to say some feedback or give me some support, or obviously let me know that I helped you. That makes me really, really happy. And obviously, once again, subscribe to stay up to date for new videos coming soon, and I will see you guys in the next video of whatever I make. See y'all guys, love you, bye, peace.
Got me in this party all up in a zone. Hottest Betty's trying to take away my cell phone. Like, come and party, I've been trying to shake you off my mind, but just can't get you off me. Keep it moving, they ain't worth it, yeah, that's what my father taught me. But for now, I'm going through the motions of letting go. Cause my mind's telling me yes, but my heart really don't know. Your heart went dark out of nowhere, yet I still see a glow. Swear we had the hottest love. Why'd you